Hi internet, so I'm going to do my review for Those Who Came After by Elizabeth Holdsworth, and I don't know how well I'm going to be able to do this because I love this series so much. It's fucking ridiculous. It's not a series, it's a singular book. So I guess this is adult, kind of historic, kind of not fiction. I don't know what else it would fall under, but I love it. So yeah, I gave this book 5 out of 5 and I absolutely loved it. So now I'm going to talk a lot about the synopsis. It's not really spoilery, but I'm probably going to gush for ages. I just say get the book, it's awesome. And yeah, it mainly takes place in Australia and in Zeeland, which is a part of the Netherlands. At the bottom of Zeeland lies a heart-shaped island called Walcheren. I'm saying that wrong. At the centre of that green and spacious place is a city called Middelburg. The medieval battlements coming into view are the stuff of dreams, the shape of nightmares. So it's where it takes place, apart from Australia, and there are a couple of other ones in there. In this we follow Juliana Stolberg, who was born in Holland in about, I'm guessing it was 1947, just after the end of the Second World War. She's narrating it at, I would say, about 50 or 60-ish, and yeah, we follow her through it. So she's, in this book, she is dealing with real-time things that are happening, and she's also going back and telling you all about her life as if she is writing it down. So I love this book for so many reasons. Like, my mother's family come from Holland, so it was kind of nice to see that side of things. I know when this character would have been 6, like a few years before this character came to Australia, my grandparents came to Australia, and this character is only slightly older than my other grandmother and one of my aunties, and it's just so interesting to see, and it was such a good book. So in this book we follow Juliana. At her current point in time, she is finally retiring from life, really being in the army and the defence for Australia. She's been, I don't know, translating and travelling all around Europe with her husband, Oscar, and now her career has come to a close, and she has just found out that her auntie, Katarina Strongberg, is dying, and dies within the first few pages of this book. In this, it even says in the summary that she is dealing with a crumbling marriage, being childless, and everything that has happened in her life. So when you meet her, she kind of does come through as someone with a wall in between her and the rest of the world. And as you read through everything that she went through, there's just so many emotions that went through me. She was a survivor of the rheumatic fever, and her mother, was Jewish and was taken by the Nazis, but was held as a political prisoner because they didn't realise that she was Jewish, although I believe she went to one of the Jewish camps and was kept there, but not as a Jew. That was a nice way of saying it. And my only problem with this book was I kept reading Oma and Opa, and for some reason while I was reading the book I kept reading it with a Dutch accent, but Oma and Opa I read wrong. I just didn't read it as that the entire book. And then I picked it up today and I was like, that says Oma and Opa. What the fuck was I reading? I really don't know what I was reading, quite frankly. It is good as well because there are splashes of Dutch and German throughout this book, and it will be written as how the person said it, and then she'll write what the English version is. And much like the storyteller and his 3 daughters, a lot of the book does actually happen, or would happen, in Dutch, but she writes it in English, which is interesting to see how it translates, kind of, because she's writing it in her own words. And she tells you the stories that she was told by her grandparents and her parents, and her father and grandparents were really big when it came to the war and being the resistance against it, so you get to hear things about that, and you get to read about her migrating to Australia when she's older and how that was, and the kind of people that they had to deal with and prejudices that they had, and how she grew up. And I identified with her so much, especially when she was a teenager. And yeah, one of my favourite things about this book was how open it was when it came to like gay and bisexual and all those sort of things, and just how open it was about a lot of issues at the same time. and how it dealt with, showing how people dealt with post-traumatic stress, and how, especially her mother, after being so mistreated by the Nazis, how she dealt with a lot of things. And she wasn't always painted as a great character, but by the end of the book you felt for the mother as much as you felt for the daughter. And with the father as well, once he came over to Australia, how he was dealing with life. And it's just interesting. It's like Lady Katrina Strongberg. When you read about her, well, at the start I thought she'd be a great like inspirational character, but like halfway through I realised she isn't painted in that light, although she is. And it just feels so honest. Like, I would believe that this was a true story and these characters were real. I don't think it is a true story. If it is, like, sign me up. I know the quote at the start of the book is, "Only the last 100 years or so needs to be mentioned." And that was by Lady Katarina Strongberg, which I think actually hadn't happened in the book. I don't know if I'm describing this book right, but yeah, I love it. And you get to see, because she's been married to her husband for 30 years, as her marriage crumbles, how she relates to the family and how she deals with travelling around for most of her life, or at least all of her adult life, and the relationships that she's built up in that time and how they were smashed and stuff. Really, this book ends when she's in her late 20s, nearly 30, and at the end of the book when she would be in her late 50s or somewhere in her 50s. Based on when it was written, I'm going to say when she was in her 50s. They never actually say what her age is in this book, so it's really hard to guess. I know, I just loved it. If you can't tell, this is definitely one of my favourite books of all time. It goes with, it's kind of sad that I read this, Shock of the Fall and The Storyteller and His Three Daughters, this early in the year, because I don't know if books can live up to these three, at least in the adult genre. But oh, I loved it. It did take me a while to read, but I'm finding that for the first 100 pages of books, I'm very slow to get into them. Once I hit 100 pages, I'm gone. I'm reading it in the rest of the day, no breaks. And that happened with this book, and I love it so much. Yeah, and I never realised just how many dialects of Dutch there is. Like, I knew there were, just from growing up. Like, I know my grandfather spoke High Dutch, but no one really understood him, and in this they were talking about how they were made to speak High Dutch because they were high society, but how there were different dialects, and how she didn't know her grandparents' dialect and wasn't allowed to learn it. Just, even, like, in this book, she's saying how so she could never communicate with her grandparents, but they loved her and they still managed to, with signs and stuff, all communicate. And it was just great seeing she had two different sets of grandparents on different sides of life, because her family was like all rich and stuff, and oh, I loved it. But yeah, so I gave this 5 out of 5. It's staying 5 out of 5, and I love it. It has been, yeah. I'm gonna stop here because it's not a quick review, but I love this book so much. Anyway, I hope you guys are having a lovely week, and I'll see you next time. Bye.